So let us recap. How do we analyze the data? Remember, in statistics, we start by asking a question. And then we collect the data, and then we try to visualize the data. Is it skewed to the left, skewed to the right? Is it normal? And so on. In the next step, we are interested in analyzing the data. And finally, we want to make inferences or predictions. Well, how do we analyze the data? To analyze the data, you have two important numerical characteristics that you can associate to your data. One of them is the measure of center that we saw last week, and the other one is the measure of variability. We are interested in using technology to calculate each one of these. When it comes to measure of center, let's write a short review. For the center of the data, we have three different things to measure. The very first one is the mean or the average. The mean of the sample is denoted by X bar, and the mean of the population is denoted by Greek letter mu, like the sound of a cat. How do we find the mean? We add all data, add all numbers, and divide it by the size of the collection. The next measure of center is called the median. Median is the middle number. For example, if you have numbers written in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then the median is 3. If you have numbers written in order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, well, the median is going to be the average of the middle numbers. You're going to take 3, add it to 4, and then divide it by 2 to find your median, which is 3.5. This is the median. Another measure of center is called the mode. Not all data have mode. It's the value with the highest frequency, the value with the highest repetition. Highest frequency or repetition. Just note that not all data have mode. So this is the review of the center. If somebody asks us, find the center of the data, we can find the mean, median, mode, but remember that sometimes the data, they don't have the mode. We are usually interested in finding the mean if we have normal distribution. What do I mean by normal distribution? Well, it means that the data are distributed in a bell-shaped form. The graph of the data are like this, bell-shaped, normal shape. Then in that case, the mean is in the middle. This is your center, which is the mean. In that case, mean and median are also the same. When do we use median? When you have skewed data set. When data are skewed. What do I mean by that? It means that the data, they have tails, either on the left or on the right. So if your data has a tail on the right-hand side, you say that skewed to the right. So skewed to the right. If the tail of the data is on the left-hand side, then you say that, hey, the data is skewed to the left. Let me just move this a little bit so we can see a better tail. Skewed to the left. In these two scenarios, the center is represented by the median. Okay, enough with the center. Let us talk about variability. For variability, you can find the range. You can find the standard deviation for your data. The range is easy to calculate. You just need to find the maximum value of the data, minimum value of the data, and then do the subtraction. But for the standard deviation, we need to use our calculator, definitely. So for the range, you just need to find the maximum, find the minimum, and do the subtraction. For the standard deviation, we need to use our calculator. Otherwise, it's going to be a very lengthy calculations. Let's go over one example to feel more comfortable about finding the measure of variability for the data. Let's take a look at our note. Let's take a look at our note. Measure of variation. As you can see, the range is defined as the maximum value minus the minimum value. Let's take a look at our example here. The question says, hey, you have two corporations, each hired 10 graduates. The starting salaries for each graduate are shown below for the first corporation and for the second corporation. Let us find the average salary and also the measure of variability for each one of these two companies. So these are the data. We have the very first data collection for the first corporation and the second data collection for the second corporation. Let us go back to our note, erase the board, and write the information down there. We're going to use our calculator to find the measure of center, where the center is located, and also find the measure of variability, the range, and the standard deviation. So in this example, we have two sets of information. The very first corporation has the following information. You're the statistician and you collected the data. So this is corporation A with the information written down as 41, 38, 39, these are $1,000 starting salary, 47, 41, 44, 41, 37, and 42. And the second corporation has the following starting salaries. So you have $40,000, $23,000, 41, 50, 49, 32, 41, 29, 52, and 58. So we want to know what is the measure of center, and also we want to know what is the measure of variability. We're going to use our calculator. So to use our calculator, I'm going to write down the instruction here. Calculator. So first of all, if you have a calculator that you rented from your friends, please make sure to reset your calculator. Reset. To reset your calculator, click on second plus. So second plus. Second and plus. You need to reset two things. Find the reset. Reset all RAM and also reset the defaults. All RAM. So let me select all RAM. Reset. Use the arrow reset. And then you need to click on second plus and repeat these. Reset the defaults. Reset. Okay. So this is my calculator. I resetted the calculator. There is no previous data. There is no previous functions. Now I want to know what is the measure of center and what is the measure of variability for these two data. Very good. So first you need to enter the data. Enter the numbers into two columns. Why is that? Because I have two sets of data. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on stat. So stat. This is our very first step. Then go to edit. So edit is already on edit, enter. You have two columns, L1 and L2. Of course, you have more columns here, but we don't want to use these. Why is that? Because we only have two data sets. In L1, enter the very first data set. So 41, enter, 38, 39, 45, 47, 41, 44, another 41, 37, and 42. Okay, now let us go to the next column. Let's enter the second data set in L2. So this is corporation A and L2 corporation B. So 40, I have a 40 here. I have 23, 41, 50, 49, 32, 41, 29, 52, and 58. There we go. So we entered all of this information into our calculator. Next, we want to know what is the center and what is the variability. To find the center and variability or variation, you need to click on Stat and then select Calc because you're trying to calculate. So I use the arrow here to go to Calc. Now, since you have just one variable, we're going to select one variable statistics. It's already there. Just click on Enter. One variable stat. Very good. Let us compute the center and variability for the very first corporation. Remember that you entered information about the first corporation in L1. So it is L1. We're good. Click on Calculate using the arrow and enter. Okay. So this is our first attempt in finding the information for L1. So what do we see here? We see X bar. X bar is the mean of the first data set. X bar is the mean, the average. The average is 41.5 thousand dollars. What about the variability? So if your data is a sample taken from a population, you're going to use S sub X. So S sub X is the standard deviation of sample. If the question says, hey, you are dealing with population, you're going to use sigma X. This is sigma, or the standard deviation of population. So S sub X represents the standard deviation of sample. If the question says, hey, you have a sample, you're going to use S sub X, which is 3 point, let's just round this, 3.14. It means that about $3,000 is the average difference between salaries and the mean. But if the question says, hey, you are working with a population, you're going to select $2.97 thousand. So here the variation is about $3,000, or just 3. What about the second corporation? For the second corporation, we already entered the data into the calculator. We just need to change the column, all right? Okay. So go to Stat, go to Calc, Stat, Calc, one variable statistics. Now you want to switch to L2. Click on second to. So it changed your column to L2. So L2, it is second to. If you want to go back to L1, you click on second 1. Okay, very good. So let's do the calculation. What about the second data? The average is the same as the average of the first corporation. Here your X bar, or the mean, is $41.5 thousand. What about the variability? Guys, take a look at the variability. The variability is very high. The variability is about $11,000. Am I right? Which is very high. Variation is about 11. $11,000. So the distance from a randomly selected salary to the mean is about $11,000. It might be less than, or it might be larger than. So if you accept a job in the first corporation, the average salary is $41,500 with variability $3,000. But if you accept a job in the second corporation, the average salary is $41,500 with variability $11,000. That's how we calculate the measure of center and measure of variability using our calculator.